Do you find yourself reaching for that third cup of coffee just to make it through the afternoon? Does your child seem constantly wired, yet somehow exhausted, struggling to focus at school, but unable to wind down at night? Guess what? You're not alone. And what you're experiencing is actually your body's addiction to stress chemicals. We often call it a cortisol addiction, adrenal fatigue, but what it really stems from is this chronic imbalance within the nervous system. This neurological dysfunction isn't just affecting adults, it's becoming increasingly common in our children. The constant fight or flight state has become our new normal, and it's wreaking havoc on our family's health and well being. And the worst part about this imbalance? Many of the solutions you've been offered, from ADHD medications for your child to that extra shot of espresso for yourself, are actually perpetuating the very cycle you're trying to break. So this video, we're jumping in. It's for exhausted parents whose children struggle with focus, hyperactivity, anxiety, or mood swings, especially if conventional care plans haven't provided lasting relief for your family. It's also for parents who find themselves constantly drained, wired, and dependent on stimulants just to get through the day. We're going to be talking about how modern society has trapped both children and parents in a chronic stress cycle, creating a literal addiction to stress hormones. And we'll be learning about how this cortisol addiction masquerades as ADHD or anxiety, and why medications often make the problem worse, and the neurological approach that can help your whole family break free from this cycle. Now, the statistics are alarming. According to recent data, ADHD diagnoses in kids have nearly doubled in the past 20 years, with stimulant prescriptions following suit. Yet these medications don't address the underlying neurological imbalance. In our practice, we consistently see families where both children and parents are caught in this stress cycle, and the child is prescribed stimulants for focus issues while the parent relies on caffeine or other stimulants, creating a mirror image pattern of nervous system dysfunction. The connection becomes clear when we understand that many of these children experience some form of significant early life stress, like birth intervention or trauma from forceps, vacuum extraction, C-section, what have you. It can create the initial neurological imbalance that sets up this cortisol addiction from the start. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about cortisol addiction and its connection to the autonomic nervous system. Cortisol addiction occurs when the body becomes dependent on stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, for energy, for focus, and daily functioning. It's not a clinical diagnosis, but a physiological state where the body has adapted to chronically elevated stress hormones. And when we run out of cortisol, that's when we call it adrenal fatigue. Now, the autonomic nervous system that controls cortisol has two main branches. The sympathetic, you've heard of it as fight or flight, and the parasympathetic, which is that rest and digest, restore mode. These should work in balance, with the sympathetic activated for emergencies and the parasympathetic predominant for healing and restoration. In cortisol addiction, the nervous system becomes stuck in sympathetic dominance, constantly pumping out stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, and so forth. And over time, the body begins to require these hormones just to function, which you can probably tell it can create a vicious cycle where we're needing them to just get stuff done, but we're also depleted of them because we're constantly in stress mode. And it's easy to think how we experience this constant stress as adults, with responsibilities stacking up, places to be, things to do, schedules, routines, figuring out meals, right? But what's interesting is how our kids can get stuck in stress like this too. And it starts very early in life with early birth trauma or early childhood trauma that sets the stage for this cortisol addiction. We talked about it. The birth interventions, forceps, vacuum, C-section, and even induction can create physical trauma to the delicate upper neck and brainstem areas of newborns. This causes what we call subluxation. It's misalignment, it's tension, and it's neurological interference in the nervous system. When subluxation occurs in these key areas, it directly impacts the brake pedal, the vagus nerve, and the autonomic function of it, often shifting a child immediately into sympathetic dominance from the very beginning of life. And this neurological imbalance can manifest initially as colic, reflux, or sleep issues in infants, But as children grow, it frequently appears as focus issues, hyperactivity, emotional dysregulation, and other behaviors commonly diagnosed as ADHD or anxiety. Now let's get into the modern lifestyle factors that perpetuate this cycle. Our modern environments bombard developing nervous systems with stimulation. Screens emit blue light that triggers the cortisol production. Processed foods spike and crash blood sugar, and constant activity leaves little time for that recovery mode to take place. Children with an already dysregulated nervous system often seek intense stimulation like risk-taking behavior, screen time, more sugar as a way to get the dopamine and cortisol to hit their brain cravings. And these extra stressors can further perpetuate the imbalance, keeping them stuck in this cycle of cortisol addiction where they're often very, very wound up, but also often very much worn out. Now, parents mirror this pattern with caffeine dependence, busy schedules, and their own screen time addictions, creating this family-wide pattern of sympathetic dominance. And here's the unfortunate reality for so many kids today. When children display signs of sympathetic dominance, they're often prescribed a stimulant medication like Adderall or Ritalin and things like that, which temporarily boost focus by further activating the sympathetic nervous system. The problem is that these medications don't address that underlying neurological imbalance. They actually reinforce it, potentially making the child even more dependent on sympathetic activation for basic functioning. And this cycle isn't just with kids. Parents often don't realize they're caught in the same trap with the caffeine, the energy drinks, and chronic stress, which keeps their own nervous system stuck in that sympathetic overdrive. It's the same things, the nervous system getting stuck in this overdrive mode. So rather than masking the signs and symptoms, what we look at as neurologically focused chiropractors is we look at it and address the root cause of cortisol addiction by identifying and correcting subluxation that interferes with proper autonomic function. Because it's the brain and nervous system that controls the release of cortisol and other stress chemicals through the adrenals, through the kidney. So when we address the nervous system and can then calm and regulate it, it then influences this cycle of cortisol addiction for both kids and adults. Now, it's one thing to self-diagnose and say, yes, I have this, I struggle with this. But what's really cool is we can actually objectively measure where this neurological imbalance exists. We use what's called advanced technology. It's insight scanning technology. We can detect where the imbalance is. And then we can develop a personalized care plan to restore proper function to that system. Each specific adjustment helps release that stuck stress from the nervous system, activating the parasympathetic branch and allowing the body to shift out of that fight or flight and into rest and restore mode naturally. Now, you may have tried different meditation apps, yoga, breathing techniques, you name it. However, breaking the cycle of cortisol addiction requires a comprehensive approach that addresses the root cause of neurological imbalance. At Rising Health, we specialize in helping parents and families reset their nervous systems naturally without relying on medications that only mask symptoms. Our approach combines neurologically focused chiropractic care, and we encourage practical lifestyle strategies that support further parasympathetic or calming activation of the nervous system. When we can address the root cause of this dysfunction, we encourage then do other things like improving sleep habits, reducing screen time, breathing techniques, yoga, time in nature, nutritional support. All of this will help to keep this imbalance away for good. The insight scans that we use provide a clear window into your family's nervous system function, allowing us to develop that care plan that addresses the needs of your child specifically. Many parents tell us they're amazed at how quickly both they and their children begin to feel more balanced with improved focus, better sleep, and reduced dependence on stimulants. So if you're ready to break free from the cortisol addiction cycle and help your whole family thrive naturally, click the link in our bio to schedule a consultation and insight scan. During this initial visit, we'll take the time to truly listen to your family's story, conduct a thorough neurological assessment, and determine if our approach is right for you. Don't let another day go by letting this being stuck in this trap of this stress cycle. Take the first step toward neurological balance and discover what true health feels like for your entire family. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.